Hey everybody, it's DrRic. So I am showing you the glory of my disheveled office 8:56 at night on a Monday. And it's usually my toughest day. I try to get something to eat. Today I didn't have any time to eat. I guess I can chalk it up to saying I made it through my 17-hour fast. Great. So not healthy, but I am intending to fast. But the reason I wanted to do this tutorial is because I had one patient about a month ago admit to me she had a sugar addiction, and I gave her reassurance and said, it's not that, it's the food. It always drives you to eat. Maybe we should look at your diet. And then I heard a couple other patients come in saying the same thing. So it made me think that there must be something that's triggering a lot of people to dive into sugar. So I'll give you the most common things. We have seasonal affective disorder. It's low and slow, but insidiously happens this time of year. I have a light box over there, and I have done a video on light box therapy. Really cool stuff. My daughter gave me that. Usually 30 minutes in the morning, 9 to 11 a.m. Tell the brain that it's daytime, and it kind of makes you think in your brain that you're at the beach. Now, you have to have some more form of mindfulness practice or guided imagery, but it will fool the brain into thinking that it's not winter, and it might get you through those dark days. We've had a lot, including minus 20 degrees for a stretch there. So that would be one thing. If it is true depression, mild, moderate, then you should seek out treatment. Sometimes you'll have a low-lying depression, but if the right storm occurs, bad food, low vitamin D, sorrow because of the season, missing a loved one, then it'll all hit to put you into full-blown depression. And if you're having that, you really should be seen. There's St. John's wort, there's SSRIs, there's other things out there there's psychotherapy. So there's a lot of things available to help you get past that and control it, get you good for the season so you don't have to go through the craving cycle. And then there's vitamin D, like I mentioned. Sometimes if the vitamin D is too low, you're not getting enough sunlight, you bump up on the vitamin D, it might reverse you back to a level where you're just at cruising altitude so you can make it through the winter without going into the food. So why do we go for the food? The food is an easy reward, and it's fast. It doesn't give the side effects of alcohol, so you can have food all day. Alcohol you probably shouldn't be eating during work hours and when you're driving. But that works at night. But alcohol is also a sugar. It's a alcohol sugar, so it does give you the same side effects in the long run. So watch yourself. Might as well talk about the food now. So I happened to look at online at Starbucks caramel brulee frappuccino blended, and I couldn't believe this thing. It's got 62 grams of sugar in it, and it's just one very ice creamy looking drink. I don't remember how big the drink was, but also 72 grams of carbohydrate. So those of you that are watching your diabetes, 72 grams of carbohydrate, you're not even supposed to eat 72 grams of carbohydrate all day long if you're a diabetic. I really want my diabetics kind of strict at 30 grams a day. Some keto practitioners who try to get themselves into ketosis, they don't even go to past 10 grams of carbohydrate a day. And here we're doing in one drink, which takes what? 15 minutes to drink, 72 grams. That's 3 days worth. You can't have anything for 72 hours. 72 grams of carbohydrate, nothing for 72 hours. That's ridiculous. Because what happens is the 62 grams, so this will cause an insulin dump. Your body will sense that there's that much carbohydrate around all at once. Real easy to absorb. That's called a high glycemic index. And the pancreas will immediately meet that and match it with as much insulin. And the insulin will take that irritating carbohydrate out of the blood vessels into the cells. And the cells will say, I don't want to deal with it, but the cells will have to. The liver actually gets the brunt of all that, which is not good, but the liver can repair itself fast. It can't keep it up forever, so you gotta watch it. The thing that worries me though, and the reason I wanted to talk about this addiction is the sugar. Sugar is number one, is for sweetening, and it's to make things palatable. But it's a commodity that, if you look at the molecular structure of sugar, it consists of a glucose molecule and a fructose molecule. The glucose can be utilized like we usually do. You've heard about glucose. Glucose is a good energy source. Brain tissue can use it. Muscles can use it. It's our go-to. Theoretically, a lot of the keto guys will try to avoid it because they switch almost from like gasoline to electric, like the hybrid does. But anyway, the fructose in sugar is the problem because the fructose cannot be utilized by the brain. The fructose has to only be digested via the liver. No other cell in the body can handle fructose. So fructose goes to the liver, and then through several steps of a chain of chemical reactions, it gets detoxified. But the end product of the detoxification is going to be high triglycerides, possibly high LDL, and that's why I think it's causing a lot of people, and it might even instigate, depending on how much of the combination you eat with the carbohydrate, a very high insulin rise and a dump. So that usually gets you craving more glucose or sugar, fructose, soon after that, which is why I had a patient came in today, and we're working on it, but he only eats one meal a day. He's a tiny bit overweight, but he only eats one meal a day. And he partakes in 12 cans of Diet Coke per day. And we're working on this, but we at least admitted to the problem. And I really believe, even though it's Diet Coke, there's a message in the Coke that the body is getting. It doesn't just go in your system, you burp up and you feel great, you have the fizz and you are settled. Obviously, you want more, and you want more, and you want more, because there's a chain of reaction that occurs. I really believe that food causes a hormonal cascade to occur. I have done videos on hormonal cascades if you starve yourself and don't eat with mindful practice, but I think also what happens is if you introduce the wrong food types, you can also stimulate a bad hormonal cascade. Everybody thinks of insulin as a bad guy, but insulin is only an innocent bystander. It's a reaction to the food and or the fuel sources that we're exposed to. So there's a couple other things here, including a Big Mac, but the deepest amount and the most dense amount of sugar usually comes in liquid form, high fructose corn syrup. But if you happen to just get it in sugar, then that's just as bad. High fructose corn syrup is what's used in beverages, Red Bull, Amped, Monster. So really try to avoid those things. I think they'll just add to the problem, but if you can try to move away from beverages, soda, that would be the first thing. Those big gulps that you see at 7-Eleven, what are they, 64 ounces? I don't even know. I just seen big things that happen to fit. I don't know how this big thing fits into a cup holder without tipping over, but ingenious, but deadly. So, and you try to do as much as you can not to spill what's in there, and you get into an accident and you wind up having stress from the accident, so you drink the whole thing. So anyway, the idea is to avoid, but I wanted to show you a couple things. So you don't only have sugar in liquid and beverage and your packets. So somebody had asked me before, what's the safest? And all these packets come, you can get all these packets at Starbucks, but you have equal, you have regular sugar in white packets, you have sweet and low, whoops. You've got Splenda, you've got, that's just Dunkin' Donuts. What else is that? We also have Stevia. This is Stevia from Now Foods. Stevia and xylitol are probably the somewhat natural sugar substitutes. So they have sweetness more than glucose, and they don't incite an insulin reaction in the body, but all these things I just spilled on the floor, these sugar substitutes, like erythritol, for example. Erythritol is a sugar substitute. It has been noted to have a killing effect on dental bacteria, so it supposedly decreases caries or cavities. But if it does that to the bacteria in your mouth, what the heck is it doing to the bacteria in your small intestine and your large intestine? Because you need that stuff to maintain mood and stability. There's a lot of serotonin that comes out of the gut if the gut is happy. If the gut is not happy and the microbiome in there, the bacterial assortment, are more assorted, or there's a dominance of the bad bacteria because you're getting the wrong kind of food sources in, then you're going to have bad mood disorder. You'll have craving from the bad bacteria getting fed the bad sugar or sugar substitute, making you want to eat more sugar. That almost falls into that like a conspiracy theory of candida. So I would always try to avoid extra sugar. Definitely try to avoid sodas and pop and cans and bottles. Try to avoid those frothy things over at the Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks. Then they taste great. It's nice to celebrate. once every couple months, but not every morning for $5. $5 to get you 72 grams of carbohydrates and what is it, 62 grams of sugar. That's a bad deal. It might taste good going down, so a short-term gain, but long-term loss for sure. But I also wanted to tell you that alcohol, as I mentioned, does have some problems. I just use this because I remember drinking beer in college from a red cup. But this is from North Face. I used to use this for tea, but I don't anymore. Anyway, it was for free. But nice prop. However, you'll also get sugar in everything else. Boxed foods, canned foods. This is beans. On the back of the bean, it has 7 grams of sugar. Hopefully you can see the 7 grams. That's how you read that. This is canned beans, 0 sugar, which is kind of good, but it has a lot of sodium. This is my vegetarian protein, and even the vegetarian protein has 1 gram of sugar. Palatability is important, so when things go on the shelf, you have to make them taste good. I found this in the fridge. One of my staffers had this, but this too, this is a ranch dressing, has 1 gram of sugar. So you got to learn to read these things. This is really busy. I think it's meant to be busy, so you won't be able to read it. There's something that's buried in here. I think the fact that it's 200 calories, it's supposed to be a meal, but this is dressing. I wouldn't do that. So if you have a chance to check out Robert Lustig's video on fructose, I would do so. It's about an hour and a half. It's from about 7 to 10 years ago. But he had some nice pointers that a lot of PhD nutritional scientists are now embracing. I think that's what's cool about some of the keto guys, the keto scientists, are really cranking out the data, and I think it's reinforceable. They're small studies, but they start from small animal studies, they go into human trials. I think the information is good. It all backs up the fact, the stuff that he talked about way back when, that the liver gets irritated and backed up just with alcohol. And the same thing can happen with fructose. That's the sugar breakdown. And we have the data is yet out as far as what the sugar substitutes do, but those fake sugars can cause a reaction. If you give the message to the brain that something's coming, food is coming, it kind of tastes sweet, here it comes, it's in the stomach, and in the stomach there's no fuel source, something's going to happen to the hormonal cascade. Maybe the cascade will die down suddenly, but something's got to happen short term, which could have a downside, but we'll see. I just say, if you're trying to get off of sugar, and you're going to go from sugar to the white packets of sugar to one of the different colors of the sugar substitutes, you might have to ask yourself, well, okay, you're going from, if you're an alcoholic and you trying to get away from wine and you're going to take beer instead, I think you're still not addressing the problem. So you really have to consider, and this is what we're talking about, the treatment plan. You might want to consider a 3 to 5 day detox, meaning you get your family ready, you take some time off of work, you take a vacation somewhere, and you get ready for the withdrawal because you're going to have it. If you like to have sugar in your coffee, and you stop the coffee as well because you can't take the bitterness of the coffee, you're going to have headaches, palpitations, sleepless nights, body aches from the coffee withdrawal, caffeine withdrawal. You will have the same thing from the withdrawal of the sugar because your body's going to be wanting the sugar and the fructose, or the glucose and the fructose. So you have to get ready. I would always try to substitute really healthy food. I mean, it's a whole food, mostly plant-based diet. Because if you actually have a grandma that comes from one of the old nations, India or South America or the Philippines or Italy or Greece, they know how to cook stuff without putting this extra stuff in it, using just herbs, vegetables, simmering meat properly, and then just taking the right amount of vegetable to meat to sauce ratio and making it pop and giving you the same sense of satiety that has that cafe frappuccino 72 gram carbohydrate thing. And that's a true meal, which will give you building blocks for building up brain tissue, muscle, heart, helping digestion, getting the fiber that the gut needs. This is nothing. All the fiber's been taken out of it. You just have pure fuel, which is bad fuel. So if you're feeding a Ferrari lawnmower fuel, that Ferrari's not going to go too far. So the other thing you can do too, because of all those PhD scientists that are now putting out information on keto, I think the use of MCT oil is good. Number one, it gives you a different source of fuel. So in case you have a withdrawal from the glucose, you have the fuel from the ketosis or the fatty acid. That'll help. And plus, if you've ever tasted MCT oil, whether in bottle form, I didn't like the bottle form, I like the powder form because I can dial this up or dial this down depending on what liquid I use. It has a little bit of a sweet taste to it. Definitely a consistency that your tongue will be fooled by, but it might work to help you get past that 3 to 5 day withdrawal. I'd always have the Tylenol on backup. I always have topical oils on backup to help with aches and pains. And then there's also this, Gymnema Sylvestre. Now Swanson's a pretty good company, but Gymnema Sylvestre is an Indian herb. It's been known as the sugar destroyer. And the sugar destroyer, what the studies have shown with Gymnema Sylvestre, it comes from a plant, is that if taken internally, it works to block areas of the small intestine that are responsible for absorbing excessive amounts of fat and glucose. And if you can stop the absorption in the colon, in the small intestine, you might be able to push it out in your poop. Now you are going to feed that to your probiotics in the colon. You might get gassy for a while, but at least don't absorb it. The other thing you might use this for is that if coating the tongue with Gymnema Sylvestre, again, it's supposed to neutralize and or bind up taste buds. And if you bind a taste bud and then you have I've seen this on Dr. Oz, bind a taste bud and you have a sugar load, you won't be able to get the same response from that sugar load. Sugar load will get the taste bud sensations for sweet really fired up and stimulated. It'll send messages to the brain, this is good, eat more. Well, if you block that and you take a big sugar load in, you don't have that positive feedback, so the brain says, I don't care. So it makes it easier to get rid of. So using this 5 minutes before each meal for the 3 to 5 days of withdrawal might be helpful. I have seen some small studies with this as diabetics can sometimes block fat. Fat and glucose in the small intestine, I think you're playing havoc with the large intestine bacteria, but I'd say change the diet first. That's one way. So we have the use of whole food, mostly plant-based cooking. You might have to go to Whole Foods, you might have to go to fancy restaurants, you might have to have a grandma just send you some packaged foods, or you might have to cook for a short time. Taste something different, don't just starve yourself. Take the Tylenol for the headache withdrawal. There's a couple of herbs you can use, vitamin B2, butterbur, they all are great for taking care of headache, feverfew. The withdrawal of any withdrawal, if it's emotional, you might want to take a couple herbs, but just for the taking care of the digestive part, MCT oil, whether it's in powder or liquid form, looking more into keto, it might be a nice switch over immediately after switching off the sugar to try something else for a while. It'll be novel for the short time and keep you geared up and interested, and then maybe Gymnema Sylvestre. So those things, and including maybe starting an exercise program, a yoga technique, or a yoga class or two. I think everything will, if you just take away all this crap and you leave nothing in the void, you're gonna probably fail. If you take away all this crap, but you throw in some new stuff, whether it's the endeavors that you do as far as exercise, mindful practice, yoga, or the food types that you start to ingest, there's something great, because when you get the sugar out of you, this is so overstimulating that when you get the sugar out of you and the taste buds are kind of reset, you'll really learn to enjoy flavors again. And there's a lot of flavors in a whole food, mostly plant-based diet, especially if you try different continents. Italian, Japanese, Chinese food, just watch the MSG. South American, Greek. I think there's a lot of old-fashioned, good reviewed restaurants that are close by. You will have to spend a bit of money because good food costs money. Cheap food doesn't cost money, but it'll cost you money later on in your health spending dollars. So watch yourself. I can't tell you how many patients I have in their 30s and 40s that are so remiss because somebody should have told them in their 20s and 30s what was coming and about to happen. But if you don't feel anything and you feel indestructible, you will continue to indulge the bad stuff. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of an idea about how to deal with sugar cravings. How, if you are having a craving, think about the root cause, whether it's vitamin D, whether it's seasonal affective disorder, whether it's just sadness from the season. Treat it or get help. And then try to come up with ideas about substituting, finding your way, and maybe even after that, if you get on a roll, stay away from this. I did. I kicked it a long time ago, but I was anyway, I had my diseases that presented themselves, and it really threatens me. I don't want to go back to the ICU anymore. It's not. In fact, I am not going to go back to the ICU because I keep on reminding myself if I fall off track, get back on. I'm not heading in that direction again ever. So stay motivated. Get help with a quit partner. If you have a partner, loved one, employee at work that's in for it too, get somebody else. They'll keep you almost like AA. You'll have a sponsor that'll keep you on target, especially when you're about to crave. I'm going to be going home at 9:17, and my wife just made mung bean. Mung bean is one of my favorite dishes. My mom used to make it, and she put bacon in it. I think there's other spices that can be substituted for the bacon, but it's got a powerhouse of protein. I can't wait to have it, but it's too late because I can't eat 2 hours before bedtime, and plus I'm starting to fast right now. About 2 hours ago I started, so I'll have to put it away, maybe give it a whiff, but put it in the fridge so I don't get tempted. So always have that. And again, a mindful practice is probably good to have if you don't have one. Seek out some help. But thanks for watching till the end. Share this or put some comments down below, or share this with other people who are having the same sugar addiction and withdrawal maybe. And don't forget to subscribe. And if you like any of my videos, give me a thumbs up. I'll see you in the next tutorial. Hey, I forgot to mention that sleep is always really important. So I'm home now, and this is the dish that I'm not supposed to eat. It's my favorite. But it's important during the winter season to also get the right amount of sleep. And sometimes the cues of night and day are off, especially if it's really dark all the time. You go into work when it's dark out, you leave work when it's dark out, sometimes heads or tails. But if you maintain a good sleep, keep the lights at night a little bit on the low side, keep the lights in the day on the bright side. Use the light box like I mentioned. Also have a ritual for nighttime. I'll put a link down below on a previous video. And then try not to eat good food. This is mung bean. It's called mungo in the Philippines, but it's about per 1 cup, about 14 grams of protein, which is really good. And I can easily put at least 2 cups in. So a nice source of protein if you're going vegetarian. But eating 2 hours before sleep is a no-no because it causes reflux. It stimulates the digestive juices when they're supposed to be calming down. So I have to save this for tomorrow. But fixing a sleep habit is most important because another thing that happens if you go home, stay up late, is that you lose a sense of those cues that tell you to stop eating. Ghrelin, leptin, insulin can all be off if you're staying up late at night or you have a poor sleep cycle. Had a young guy that came in today, said he gets by with 6 hours of sleep. And I asked him how long is his nap during the day. He says 2 hours. That's unacceptable because you just fractionated your REM cycles at night. So try to keep it 8 hours if you can, really deep sleep, uninterrupted, nice and cool. Just see my video for the rituals down below and maintain a good sleep and wake cycle.